All right, man. We got a real treat today. It is my pleasure to welcome to the show Rel from Rel Academy, man. I've been following this guy for a few months now, watching, consuming all of his content, and he is one of the best doing it in the basketball space. Rel, thanks for coming on, bro.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate the opportunity, and we're gonna have a little bit of fun and hopefully add some value to some people out there.
Absolutely, man. So we like to jump right into it. Okay, so what we want to do is have you just talk to our young players about your basketball journey. Tell us about
Yeah,
you as an athlete, college, and then we'll get into the Rail Academy and what you've done after that.
yeah. Basketball was life for me at a young age, and everybody's home situation is different, but sports was always equal with academics in my household. I had a mother and a father in the household, and they were both college athletes, so sports was always equal. It wasn't one over the other. Um, So I think with that base, I was given that's a blessing right there to have kind of parents in your corner when it comes to that. So, I utilized every single bit of it. All I did was hoops as much as I possibly could on my own with teams, with dad, with it didn't matter. You know what I mean? So it was a lifestyle. That's the best way to put it. It was a lifestyle. And so, I was always good. And, this is another point that'll probably pop up in conversation, but I was always little, always a little kid, but I was always good. I was always um, talented. So from the time I started playing organized basketball, it's usually like third grade for most kids. I was usually the best kid on my team all the way through. And no, it's marginal. You know what I mean? We're in Western PA. It's not like we're some basketball powerhouse. I grew up in the suburbs, so there's not a lot of um, kids who are necessarily there to challenge a kid like me in the first place, to be honest with you, when it comes to that. But that helped. It helped that I was always the best because my confidence always showed that I was the best. And then as I got older, I continued to think I was the best, even though I wasn't. But so that was kind of my mentality from a young kid. And then on top of having that confidence, all of the work that I did, and just it's the cliche. I hate bringing this stuff up, but just being outside all the time, being by myself on a hoop wherever I had to get. That was my lifestyle. It was like I got to go to school, and when I'm done with school, I got to go to basketball school, put myself through basketball school. That was my lifestyle. I was a good player in high school. I was no superstar. I thought I was, but I wasn't. So I was recruited by a lot of low level Division 1s, and again, for sure, thought I was some guaranteed Division 1 player. That didn't work. I ended up getting basically no offers. I had one offer from an Ivy League school from Dartmouth. At that time, Ivy League rules where you had to have 1,500 on your SAT. I was nowhere close. I'm sorry, I think it was 1,250. I was nowhere close. Um, so I couldn't get in there. So Division 1 was gone. I ended up, again, this is a nice example. I bring this up sometimes. I was at a 5-star camp. I don't even think 5-star exists anymore. It was kind of like a showcase type of camp. They got a million of those now. There was a coach there running the camp who was a Division 2 coach from South Carolina, a school called Limestone. Never heard of it. He was running one of my drills that I was in, offered me a scholarship right there on the spot. Really weird situation that doesn't happen often, but that's what I did. I ended up going to Limestone. Truth be told, I didn't want to go there. I only went there because it was basically a full scholarship. For people who don't know about Division 2 schools, you don't usually get a full scholarship. You usually get, depending on who you are, if you get 50%, maybe a little over 50, that's probably average. I don't have any statistics to back that up. I'm guessing. I had like an 85% scholarship. That was why I was going to go. Went there, hated the school, uh, didn't like anything about it. I left within the first semester. Again, I had parents who were really involved, so I didn't want to transfer to a D2. Again, the rules are a little different. At that time, you had to sit out if you went up or stayed in your same level. I did not want to do that. Had really bad knees since I was 15. I just wanted to play my career and kind of just be done with it. I didn't have much time left on my body to begin with. I'm sitting here right now. If people have seen me on social media on crutches and stuff, I have a ruptured patella tendon. So this was all in the making. But transferred into a Division 3 school that my dad found that wasn't far from the house, about an hour away. I had never heard of it. I was in practice in about 3 days, and that's where I was for 3.5 years. That's where I played my college career. Again, I was a decent player, was a starter, double-digit scorer. Scored over 1,000 points. I had a good experience. I wouldn't say that I was a great player. I wouldn't say that I was anything like what I teach now. I have a lot of regret, I guess you could say, about my basketball career. These are usually. I've noticed over the years that this is popular. People usually, as they get older, look back and realize how stupid they were and how immature they were. And
That's right.
another thing that's another point that I could speak on forever is, I graduated at 22. Um, a 22-year-old in the NBA, let's say Jason Tatum, who I think is now maybe 25. I'm just bringing him up. He's nowhere close to what he was at 22. He's way better now. At 25, at 26, 27, 28, guys hit their prime. So it's really important to understand when this comes to teaching, when it comes to developing young players. As you get older, if you play college ball, high school ball, and as you get older, you're going to end up being a way better basketball player, even though your career has been over forever, because of your brain, because of your understanding of the game. And that was huge for me running this academy. It was huge for me getting into teaching, because as time went along, I started to learn what basketball was really about. My talent, my passion is what got me into teaching. But as I started teaching, I realized that I was not a very good player. I realized I didn't know anything. Um, and again, like I hit my prime at like 25, 26, and that happened to actually be a coaching prime. It really wasn't a career prime. So, right when I got out of school, I knew I wanted to do something like this. I worked a regular job at Verizon for 11 months. Hated every bit of that. I've been an entrepreneur spirit guy since I was a young child. It's just who I am. So I always knew I wanted to do my own thing. And once I hit enough of that Verizon job, I quit. And I could go into all of that as well. That's a different topic, but I just took a risk, started my thing, and never looked back from there. It's been growing every year, and now I have this amazing operation that is my life. It's been my life since 2014.
So I love a lot of that. So there's lots of places we can pull from. The first thing I want to go with is the first thing you said, which I found really intriguing, is that you were raised in an environment where sports was equal.
Yeah,
And it wasn't necessarily a co-curricular, because I know you also use the word cliche, which a lot of people don't like. I happen to love cliche. I think cliche is
yeah,
something we should not ignore.
yeah,
But the cliche is, school first, academics first. So
yeah.
in your house, they said it's equal. Talk to us about that. In your older age, do you still feel that way? Would you adjust
hmm
that in your own parenting style? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I have a 2-year-old daughter. So a lot of what I've done and what I've said over the years has proven to be still consistent to my beliefs. Having a 2-year-old daughter and dealing with thousands of kids since 2014 to now. You know what I mean? So, and some of these kids have been with me for literally 6, 7 years. Like I've watched them grow up. So I still hold those same values. So yeah, I still believe academics and athletics can be on an equal playing field. Another thing, I was immature about academics when I was a kid. I was always an average student, never failed. I always like to keep a little feather in my cap that I never failed one class in college, but I wasn't a studier, didn't really care about academics. I just did what I had to do to get by. And again, I regret that because as you get older, you learn that those things could have helped you had you applied yourself, just like the basketball things. When I was immature of how I looked at the game, if I would have looked at it differently, if I would have looked at academics differently, understanding that I do want to be an entrepreneur. So there's a lot of stuff you could probably pick up what you're doing right now if you would apply yourself. So I don't down academics in any way. I'm huge on knowledge. I've taught myself basically everything. Um, I know so much stuff just from running this business. I just know a lot of just general life things that I had to teach myself though. And who knows how many years that held me back if I would have applied myself in college. It probably set me back a couple. Um, but I still 100% believe I deal with college coaches on a regular basis, parents and families on a regular basis. You can't overstate the importance of athletics. And the easiest thing is money. And I don't like that people like to shy away from the talk about money in
Mm-hmm.
anything. Money runs everything. Okay. If it wasn't for money, I wouldn't have this academy. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So money is everything to a point. But I say that to say it's the easiest one to go to. Now, I just a coach, I'm not going to call people's names out, but a Division I coach 2 days ago told me that now it's more advantageous to stay in college as long as possible, which again, maybe this is a topic you were going to bring up. I have no idea, but reclassing, keeping kids in school. If you are a high level athlete, you're more likely to get paid. I mean, mid major players are getting paid $40,000-$50,000 a year.
Right.
Your average kid, especially if you're not coming from an environment around you where you have a bunch of connections, relationships, and opportunities, you'd be lucky to make $50,000 a year when you come out as a 23, 24-year-old. You'd be lucky. So it's more advantageous to try to keep your butt in school. And another important thing about that is you're more likely to get, let's say, $70,000 a year from NIL stuff if you're 23, 24, rather than a brand new kid's 19 out of high school if you're not a top recruit in the country. They're going to pay that older guy who has more experience, been around the block, has more value to the team, probably has a little bit more brain on his shoulders. These things matter. And so it's easy to speak about money when it comes to the academic, and because that's what academics is about, right? We don't have academics in school if it's not about going out there and making a living. That's what this is about. So now imagine if you have a child and he could save $100,000, $125,000 in school because everything's paid for anyway. You have a scholarship, you have food, you have housing. It's all paid for. So you can save that money and come out of school with all the options in the world, your resume of being an athlete and those connections that you've made of being there. People don't realize how many successful people are in the basketball, college, professional space. I'm talking about people who know doctors, lawyers, physical therapists, people in sports science, all types of construction, all types of walks of life where you can pick up that phone and call that coach that you were with for 4 years, 2 years, 3 years, and you have a tremendous bond with, probably bigger than your academic kid has a bond with his professor, probably much bigger. It's really probably not even close. Those bonds are huge when you can come out of school and pick up the phone and look for an opportunity for yourself. On top of maybe you save $100,000, $70,000, man, sports has gone way up. It's gone way up.
So I this is the funny thing about doing a podcast. I have to find out which way I want to go, because I want to go. Let's just go there, because it's just right on my head. I'm not going to be able to think about anything else. Talk about the reclass. Talk about the reclass, because it's happening everywhere. Should we do it? Should we not do it? What are the times in which the reclassing is the right thing to do for your athlete?
Sure. Everybody's different. Every situation is different. I'll give you the easiest layup situation. I have a kid in this situation this very moment, was on the phone with his father this morning about it. He's 2024, so he's going to be a senior. He wants to play high major basketball. He is a high major talent. Long story short, the plays that needed to be put in place happened for him too late. So that's why he doesn't have high major offers. That's why he's not tagged as a high major kid right now. Okay. But we know he's there. We know he's there. So in this situation, it makes sense for him to go to a prep school and leave his public school to reclass, for one, because reclassing now puts him back in the mix, allows him a whole nother year of AAU basketball, which when you talk about Division I talent, okay, only Division I for the most part, the Nike YBLs and the Adidas and Under Armour, that is it. It is it. He needs another year of that. He didn't really have a full year of that this year. So if you put him back in that 2025 class, it's very likely he ends up in the top 80, top 70, top 60 in the country because of how good he actually is. He's had a full year now of getting on coaches' radars, but they haven't seen him in person because he wasn't in the opportunities to really have that happen. So reclassing a kid like that, who literally, so he could go to a low division one. There's no question he can go play at the low division one. He already has a couple offers to do that. But again, when it talk about success and finance and things like this, you're not going to really get $40,000, $50,000 a year at a low division one. You could, but probably not, especially as a 17-year-old. He's going to graduate high school at 17 years old. Okay. He's going to sit the bench next year, wherever he goes, if he goes to a low division one, most likely. Give him another year, you might be talking about a real salary. He might make as much money as his parents. You understand what I'm saying? By reclassing this kid, putting him in prep school, and having two more years to go at this thing, build his game even more, put him in the proper position that he needed to be in the first place to be seen and displayed as a high major kid. That's a layup situation where it's like basically a no-brainer. Now, when you talk about, go ahead.
No, because I want to stay on that just for a second because what?
Yeah,
Okay, so yeah, okay, I'll grant you that. That's a layup for him. Now,
yeah,
how does that factor into the natural rising senior who now has one less eye on him because now this other person has dropped back down to compete with him?
sure. Yeah.
So what would you say to the kid who is taking that natural progression? How can they navigate the world of all these reclasses that are more physical and older and stronger than them?
Yeah. So, like everything in the world, in my view, there's two ways to look at it. There's the complain, or there's to face the facts and figure out how you're going to find an advantage. They need to face the facts and figure out how they're going to find an advantage. So they either need to be extremely talented. This kid I'm talking about is 6'5", 200 pounds with a 40-inch vertical. So if you can beat that, then you might be okay, but if not, you need to find your advantage. And so there's no right or wrong answer. But the reality is that, again, like these coaches will tell you, man, like, do I want to take a 17-year-old natural, an 18-year-old natural out of high school? Do I want to take him, or do I want to take this 23-year-old who's proven himself at the Division I level? And that's basketball. We haven't even got into the money. It's the same type of thing. So that is the reality. So I think it's a complete excuse to look at that reclass and say, well, because of this kid, I just lost an opportunity. No. You were losing that opportunity anyway. They are, high school kids are at such a disadvantage, whether you like it or not. I don't like it, but it's the reality. They're at such a disadvantage than they were when I graduated because this transfer thing. And maybe one day the transfer thing and the NIL thing, maybe these things will get chopped up and dispersed a little differently, managed a little differently to even it out a little bit, but maybe not. But that high school kid is doing it natural. You either better be better or you better figure out your plan, then maybe you got a reclass to fall in line. Like, it all depends. The ridiculousness of reclass comes where you have a kid who's a regular Joe. I was a regular Joe. I wasn't regular Joe compared to most people out there, but I'm talking about college basketball. I was a regular guy. I was going to play Division III basketball. I was going to be okay. Those kids reclass if you want to. You're not going to change the outcome. You are who you are. But the kids who truly are in that next cut and literally just didn't get an opportunity because politics weren't in play or something like that, that's a different scenario.
Would you say, so I heard you mention this earlier, would you say the shoe circuit is the only indicator as to whether or not you're on that trajectory for D1 or not? So if I'm a junior and I haven't been invited to a shoe circuit yet, should I just start thinking D2 and D3 right away?
In reality, you said a key word. You said thinking. No. I believe every kid should shoot for the stars. Like, I was blind. You couldn't tell me I wasn't playing Division I basketball. You couldn't tell me. So you should be delusional about that, because that's going to keep your confidence at a certain place. That's going to keep you a certain amount of hungry. You should be delusional about where you're going. And then when that comes, then you start to chop down, but you don't give up early. You don't give in early. If it's your dream to play Division I basketball, you don't give up on that early and make it and say, well, this isn't happening, so it's probably not going to happen. I don't believe that. I believe when your feet get to the fire and it is senior year and you either have to right now reclass, because let's take the EYBL. This kid that I'm telling you about, if he doesn't choose to reclass this year, he can't just go to school as a 2024, reclass the next year, do it again, and play on the EYBL this season. It doesn't work that way. Now, I believe maybe Adidas will let you slide with stuff I'm not sure. But what I'm saying, when your feet gets to the fire, now you look in the mirror and you really get hard about where you're, hard on yourself about where you're at. But those other kids, you want to do everything in your power to get on that shoe circuit. You want to do everything in your power, because it is just, unfortunately, again, I don't like it, but it's the reality. I have to deal with it. Most coaches are going to say he looks good unless he's like 7 foot, 6'9", 6'10", like, unless it's something like that. They're going to look at you in your high school season, even at a prep school. Most of the time, again, there's always exceptions, but they're going to look at you and say, I like this kid. I'm going to decide this summer when we go watch him on the biggest stage. that's just the reality of it, man. That's the reality of it. And I don't blame them because they got to give you a scholarship and give you NIL money. They are not giving you the NIL money, but they got to put it in play for you. And they got to do that with you, the high school kid, over the kid who's transferring from Marshall and averaged 12 and 5 last year.
Mhm.
Like, what's a safer bet? So they're not about to just be slinging high major scholarships to kids, watching them in high school. You know, their metric is that shoe circuit now. That's the climate that we're in.
Well, I would be stupid if I didn't send you back to the other thing that I wanted to go in your story, because I
Yeah.
am, as I told you before we started, is I'm an athletic director at the NAIA level, right? So what we're
Okay.
gonna
Yep.
do is we're gonna go after that kid who's delusional, as I love how you put that.
Yeah.
That once that bubble bursts and they realize that those big offers aren't coming, they're gonna come to us. But I love what you said in your story, that as you were growing up, Rel, you were used to playing with confidence because you were always one of the better players. So then, even
Yeah.
when you got to a space where you weren't, your mentality was still, I'm that dude.
Yep.
So would you give that advice to young people, that to not
Yeah.
go after the big stars of the D1, but go after the place where you're sought after the most, that your confidence can be high?
When it comes to college, absolutely. When it comes to before then, no. But
Okay.
once you get to school, once it's like I said, that senior year where your feet are to the fire, you absolutely you have to. And almost every kid out there, except for the kids who are going to be one and done in the NBA, which is it's irrelevant to even have conversations about those kids because they're such unicorns. Like, people don't realize how unnecessary the conversations are. Like, most kids, the NAIA, the Division II, the Division III, the JUCOs, like, that is the real conversation most of the time. You know what I mean? So um the problem is we get stuck on the things and the concepts that only matter for the less than 1%. You know, but most of us are going to go into college and we're going to immediately see we're not as good as we thought we are. NAIA is much better than you thought it was. Division II is much better. That's just the nature of the beast. It's the nature of it's a human flaw. You know what I mean? So um that said, everywhere you go, every step of the way, if you want to have a good career and enjoy yourself, every kid on that NAIA team, every kid on the Division III team, every kid on the Division II team, they are all dogs. All of them are that way. They all believe that they're the best. They all will fight you. They all want the ball when it's everybody's in that category, right? Some
Mhm.
more than others, but there's
Mhm.
a baseline of type of person that makes it to that level. And I say all the
Mhm.
time, you can just Google the statistics. It's unbelievably, your chances are horrible to go play in college, to play after high school. They're
Mhm.
horrible chances, and there's a reason for that because these people are special.
Mhm. Mhm. And that's the thing I want people to realize, is that it's 7%. And I think you were being humble in your story too, because you said I played D3 and I scored 1,000 points. Look, man, it's 7% that play any level,
Yeah,
and it's a lot less than 7% that score 1,000 points at that level.
sure,
You know
right,
what I mean? So, and I think because I do the same thing. I'm an All American at the NAIA level.
hmm
If I do an interview with someone who played D1, they go, yeah. And for me, I don't even think about that. It's all relative. I'm proud
it
of
is
my
all relative.
career. You
Yeah,
should be proud of yours. And
yeah,
anyone who's aspiring to have a career, there's always going to be that balance between, I'm really proud of what I've done and
right,
I want to push myself to do more.
for
But
sure. Yeah.
I don't want kids to think that it's D1 or bust. That's it
Nah,
just
that
can't be
it's just
true.
such a stupid conversation. Like I said, it's such a stupid conversation. And I would tell you the other thing, with the NIL, it's a different situation now. But let's go with the low majors, like a kid like myself who would have just been blessed to squeak into any Division 1. And these are these kids' minds. I have 10 of them right now. They just want to go anywhere, like any Division 1. Please give me a scholarship, I'll go.
Mhm.
Right. So for those kids who are lucky to do that, um, with no real NIL money, once it's all over, like, so what? What does that matter? Like, there are just as many kids out there broke, messed up, messed up relationships, no car, no license. Like, they're all over the place. That it just because kids have this, facade in their mind that going Division 1 is going to make you somebody, and it's
Mhm.
the first thing from the truth.
Yeah, man, that's so true. And I, when in my playing career, every year that I was there, someone would transfer down from Northern or
Yeah.
Eastern or something like
Hmm.
that because they got the signing and that cool feeling of I made it D1, but then once they get there, they realize they're not playing. They're being coached
Right.
way harder than they ever were in high school. They
Yeah.
weren't ready
Yeah.
for that. And then they come down a level. And even then, we find people that come down a level thinking that it's going to be easy, and they realize even that's difficult.
Right. I did it myself. I went from Division 2 to Division 3, and it wasn't much easier. You know what I mean? I mean, it was a little bit, but it wasn't. I wasn't killing. I wasn't a superstar. I wasn't the clear cut best player. You know, so we had that I can remember. We had three when I was at my Division 3 school. We had three kids transfer from Division 1 and come to us. Not a single one of them played. They all ended up getting basically pushed off the team and quit the team. Not a single one played. So it's all in
Right.
perspective.
So the other thing you said is that you know now more than you did when you played. That's the same for I
Right.
think most of us. But
Yeah.
as a trainer, now that you're in this craft, do you believe that that process can be sped up? Can a kid play like a 26-year-old in his brain when he's 16? Can we teach the game at that level?
You can. Also, this is not like a anything to you. I hate the word trainer.
Mhm.
I hate I hate what training has been becoming people's minds.
I saw your video the other day. You said training is dead. I like that. Break that down for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. And it goes into this because training again. I learned through this process. I started doing this in 2014, really 2013, but 2014 I really had my thing rolling. I used to give private lessons. I had 100 kids at one time on private lessons. I was reading private. Also, truth be told, I would make more money that way as well, giving private lessons. But number one, I'm a quality of life person, so I had to work very hard in those days. Y'all, I worked 7 days a week, a lot of hours. Um, but when it comes to private lessons, I had these 100 kids, and they all became skilled. They all look good if you put them in a drill. But as time went on, I'm showing up at their games. That was my process. I used to work with kids and go to the games and see what they're doing. And basically, nothing was converting. You know what I mean? I'm like, wait a minute. I thought this kid was good. He stinks. You know what I mean? So
You need my
over
hype
time,
button right now.
yeah. Over time, I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. So again, after these 100 kids and some of these kids were getting private lessons from me for years and had this very personal relationship with me, I had to let them know, like, hey, everything is going to group sessions, and we're changing the way that this whole thing goes. And a lot of people didn't like that. They didn't like the idea. The majority did, but you had a significant amount of people who were upset about that. But as time rolls along, I because I used to have a kid who was pretty talented coming to me. I get him more talented with skills, and he still would not be a very good player. Nowadays, with the structure that we use, and not doing private lessons and not sitting in here training on on shadow defenders all day, you could take a kid who has just a little bit of talent, does his thing, and makes a huge improvement in those games. So it's night and day because you're not training. Yeah, you are training, but I'm using the term that how we use it nowadays. We're not training, we're practicing. And so
Mhm.
um I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off to go back to your original
No.
question. You absolutely can get a kid's brain to be more elite at a young age, but there's a fine line. I don't. You could That kid could be the smartest player in the world. If he can't jump over a phone book, he's only going to be but so good. You
Sure,
understand what I'm
sure,
saying?
sure,
But
sure.
but we do. We have some of our little kid. We were just talking about it before I jumped on this call with you. Some of these kids, their brain is grabbing all the IQ stuff. Their brain is grabbing all the reads, and they just look really, really solid basketball players. But they're only 10, 11 years old. They're 4'6". So you're like, what's this going to look like in a few years? I'm not sure. We'll have to see. But you absolutely, we see it all the time, and we see kids who think they're not listening. We're like, man, this kid doesn't listen. He doesn't pay attention. He just doesn't get it. 6 months later, it starts to all click, and he actually has been paying attention for those 6 months. You just didn't realize it, or his body language is weird, or he's goofy, or something like that. But he's picking it up, and all of a sudden, the kid could break down a whole play, like he's a college coach for you. And so, you absolutely can change a kid's mind, and that's what I needed. You know what I mean? That's my we say it all the time. Like, we were talented individuals. We were little guards who could do it all. We were playing Steph Curry ball before everybody saw Steph Curry doing it. We just weren't doing it nowhere close to as good, but we were
Mhm.
doing those things. I've been dunking a basketball since I was in 10th grade. I was like 5'7". So
Mhm.
we were talented. We just didn't know what the hell we were doing.
Yeah.
And providing this type of system, that these type of kids can really prosper. If we see a couple of us, which doesn't happen often, but when we see kids who are kind of like us, like, man, they can really benefit from this and turn into a basketball player, not just a talented kid.
That's so huge, man. And I think that's what drew me to asking you to come on because I'm always watching our game. I love our game. It's in my blood. I love it. So I'm always watching, even though I don't do much training anymore. But that's what bothers me is I see a lot of people that teach the what, but not the why. And so
Yep.
there's kids that know what to do. They know a step back. They know a euro. They know the
Yeah.
what. They have no idea why or when to apply it in a game. And
Yeah.
then the game comes and we're trying to run, Princeton with a back cut,
Yeah.
and they still have the ball in their bag trying to do something that
Right.
a trainer taught them. And
Right.
that's going to put them on the bench. And
Yeah.
then their perspective, because they haven't learned, they don't know what they don't know. They think that we're picking on them. They think we don't see their talent or their ability.
Yeah.
It's not the
Yeah.
case. It's just that you don't know when to apply that talent in the
Right.
context of this beautiful team sport.
Mm-hmm.
I think in tennis you could probably still get away with having a private trainer because the forearm is the forearm. The forehand
Yeah.
is the forehand. The backhand is the backhand. But
Yeah.
in our game, depending on who you're playing with, depending on the score, depending on what your coach's offense is, does he want to
Yeah.
play fast? Does he want to play slow? It changes everything. So when
Look,
I watch
if
your
I can
content,
interject,
yeah, yeah,
real quick, just because you brought up the tennis it's so I'm a big tennis player, absolutely
okay,
love it. I picked it up way after college, out of nowhere. But let me tell you this: even in tennis, even with tennis coaches, there's one thing to go through a workout. It's another thing to learn. And there was a guy I was playing a lot of tennis, probably about 5 years. I was very talented, hit the hell out of. I could do everything. I hit all the shots, but when it came down to playing the points, I was always losing somehow. And I finally ran into a guy who, while we were playing, while we were hitting, this would be equivalent to a basketball training session. While we're going, he's stopping and showing. He's like, he's literally stopping the points. This is where you need this shot that you show me you can hit. This happened right here. This is where you need to hit this shot where you show me you can hit. You're completely thinking about these shots the wrong way. You're using them at the wrong times. There's training, there's working out. So there would just be hitting tennis balls, right? And then there's learning how to actually play to build a point, to build
mm,
a tennis point. There's a distinct difference there. So, and it works the same way in basketball. And so, most people are in basketball, they're training, they're just hitting tennis balls. They're not
yeah,
learning how to play tennis. You understand what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that correction because yeah, that's another example of what I'm talking about. Basketball's my game. I understand it. I have a very modest knowledge of tennis, so I make that analogy. But that's what
Yeah.
people are doing with our game. They have a modest
Right.
understanding of it, but yet they're making assertions about what it is.
Right. Right.
So I love that. All right, so we're about the halfway point. Let's shift our focus and start talking directly to the three people in our audience. Right, I told you we're trying to bring parents, coaches, and athletes together, the one community, so we can
Mm-hmm.
all learn from each other. So let's start with what I believe is the most underserved part of that community. I think there's lots of podcasts for coaches, lots of podcasts for athletes,
Mm-hmm.
but what's the podcast for the parent? So let's start there
Yeah.
and help a parent. How can a parent find a good trainer in their neighborhood?
That is tough. That is tough. So, I tell people all the time, it's trial and error. The biggest where people go wrong is they start too late. So once your kid is like, I can't tell you how many eighth graders we get, and people want to bring them to us, and they really want to get serious now and try to get better. People hate hearing this. That is way too late. Now, in perspective, it doesn't mean that kid can't get better and make his varsity team. It doesn't mean that. I'm talking in college, as far as trying to play college basketball and reach the top of the mountain. That is way too late. So the best thing you could do, I had a friend call me the other day. His kid's in second grade. Like, you got to start looking as early as you can. Get your kids into as much as you can in your local area, because what's going to happen is these circles are very small. You're going to realize that it's all connected in one way or another. There's only a few real players in your area. When I say players, I'm talking about people who are in the industry, and like, have access and resources, and or are the actual people like myself and have the programs. Like, there's, you want to get privy to that as soon as possible. So it's trial and error. Try this one, try that one, hear this person as early as you can, when you're not really going to mess anything up. You're not really going to make a dent. But when you start just trying to figure it out in middle school, you have made so many dents that it's going to be tough for any coach, any program to get those dents out. So mentally and physically. So that's my number one advice for parents, is start early, early, early.
You have any sympathy for the parent that's afraid of burnout? If I start them too early, then by the time they're in high school, they're burned out? Or do you say, hey, if they burn out by then, they weren't meant to do it?
I've sympathy for every parent in every situation, because like I said, I have a child, I have all these kids in here, you know, there's enough to keep you up at night, right? But burnout to me is burnout only comes when you're not having fun. You know what I mean?
Hey,
Like, I love golf, I love tennis, I love basketball. I'm not getting burnt out of any of them. You know what I mean? There might be days where I'm tired, or I don't feel like doing it today or whatever. You don't get burnout. Burnout to me sounds like I'm done.
mhm.
I'm not quitting anything that I love ever. I'll be playing golf until forever. You know what I mean? I might have peaks and valleys. Sometimes I'm playing more. Sometimes I'm more excited about it than others. But burnout to me, go find something you can't burn out in. You know what I mean? You can't just, you're not just gonna burn out in life. Like, it keeps rolling. So you better stay excited and motivated about something. So I would never take that into consideration about, oh, should I do this with my child? I don't want them to get burned out. No way, because again, for me, this is another topic for this. The kid needs to dictate it all. If the parent is dictating it all. Now, when they're really young, no, I don't believe that.
Sure.
You know, like when your kid is still like 7, 6, 5, 4, the parents gonna have to dictate. Their That's the way their brains wired. But
Hmm.
you know, once, if your kid is now in fourth grade and you're trying to drag them out there, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Go, let him find something else that he wants to do. He should be dragging you out. You should be too tired. You know what I mean? You should say, "Can
I
we just
love
do it
that.
tomorrow?" You know what I mean?
I love
So,
that.
and when you find those kids aren't getting burnt out.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. And the best thing I've heard on the subject of burnout is if your flashlight runs out of light, you don't throw away the flashlight, you change the
Yeah.
batteries.
Right. Right. Right.
Right?
Right.
So,
Yep.
so if your kid is feeling a sense of burnout, parents, what my suggestion to you would be to rest. Just
Yeah.
take a couple of days. Just do something
Take a couple
else.
days.
Take them to an amusement park.
Oh
Have
yeah.
them do something else, and then
And if
get
he
back
if
out.
he really loves it, he's gonna be begging to get back to. Those days are gonna feel like, man, really need to get back to this. So I love
That's
that.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
So we talked to the parents about that. So trial and error. Now we're going to try to eliminate some of that with AGB. I think that you can do that, but the key is people got to start talking and people got to start being honest. And that's another place to give you some love, man. What I
Yeah.
appreciate about your content the most is not just the high level basketball stuff, but it's the honesty that you put in front of the camera. A lot
Yeah.
of people don't talk to people the way you do because some of the things you say, if I'm honest with you, Rel,
Hmm.
is a little controversial, but
Yeah.
it's okay because it's so authentic.
Yeah.
So can't we put it together a community where everyone's honest? Like if a trainer was like, if a trainer got to a camera and was like, I don't want to train your kid if he's bad, that would help
Hmm.
a lot of parents.
Yeah.
If you only want to train elite players, tell them that so
For
that
sure.
people aren't coming to you
Right.
waiting for your patience. So do you
Yeah.
operate with a lot of patience in your training, or do you want only the best players that are ready to go?
Oh, no, no, no. Listen, the again, I'm an honest dude. I don't shy away from money. Okay. You're not running a business off of players who come to you and they're ready to go. Okay. That's not the way that this works. Um, it's never going to work that way. They can go for free basically anywhere, because if you're not going to take them, somebody else wants them. So let's start at that basis. So when you talk about doing what we do, running an operation, this is a full-time thing. I employed 3 full-time grown adults who have families. Like, real money got to come in. This is gonna be, you understand what I'm saying? Again, people want to shy away from that and lie. Again, I'm an honest dude. People will lie and tell you that they don't care about money. That's all garbage. Okay, they wouldn't be in this if they didn't. Um, so that's the first thing. But you want to you really want to be able to get kids if you're passionate about it. Now, I don't knock anybody for only wanting to work with elite kids. Like, maybe that's just your personality, that's your style. But for me, I'm a person who thrives off progression by any means. So We had a kid in here this morning. He's been in here for a couple years. I mean, this kid literally could barely walk and chew gum when he first came here. And you figure it's got to be he's got to have some type of learning disability, some type of something missing as far as picking up information. You could have sworn that for a while, you know what I mean? But where this kid is now, it's like an anomaly. How much improvement he has made, and that's the same kid that 99% of people. I'm giving a gem right now to people in my area who compete with us. The difference is we're gonna get in the mud, and you would pass on that kid. You'd rather not give him any attention.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get in the mud and stick with that kid and treat him just like the other kids who come in here who are gonna play Division 1 ball, because that's what it takes to really add value. And when you add value, you can run a business, you can have an operation, you can have something that people keep coming back to, whether it's for money or not. That's value. So for us and me, no, that weighs no, we have no bearing on that. Now, we don't let people in the academy who can't be here, though. So
Okay.
our threshold is usually third grade, but we've had numerous third graders where I've had to tell the parent they're just not, they're not ready yet. And it's usually mental. It's usually like
Mm-hmm.
you're babysitting them. They're not, they can't be here. Those people, I'm not gonna take their money for one, and we definitely are not gonna be held back and have the operation compromised because we have kids like that in here. So, and that's no knock against them, anything. Like sometimes they're very nice kids. It's just you just don't fit this right now.
Sure.
So, that's the way that we look at it. But hey, again, I think we've been successful and got a leg up on everybody because we don't need elite kids every day.
Well, I think that's a good transition to talk directly to the coaches. And if you're not, don't answer anything you're not comfortable answering. But I
Yeah.
just did an interview yesterday with a good friend of mine who's a trainer out here, and
Hmm.
he's doing it. He's doing it the right way. But he just started a couple years in and has a decent clientele base. Give advice to young trainers like that. How can they get to the point where they have a program that is as successful as Rel Academy?
Well, the first thing is with the passion. Again, cliche thing, but the first thing is the passion. So you gotta love. You don't even have to love. You could love another sport more than basketball. You have to love progression. You have to love the chase, the hunt. You gotta love being able to grab a kid and looking at it as a blank canvas, and being hand in hand with that kid to try to improve them. So like that is the first thing. If you don't have that, I don't care what other opportunities you come across, what other gifts fall in your lap. It's probably going to fall apart at some point, depending on what you want to do. But so that's the first thing. Be real with yourself about that. Do you have the fire in your belly to get up and go work with those kids every day? And then after that, it is pure business. You got to have pure business acumen to do this, because this, I don't know the statistics. I mean, how competitive is sports development? I mean, it is unbelievably competitive. Every somebody, I don't know how old you are. I'm 33 years old. Every somebody I know, my age and younger, is doing this. I mean, like everybody we grew up with, everybody's trying to get into this in some
Mhm.
way, shape, or form. The business acumen that you can't really I can't teach to somebody necessarily. I believe that some of that is in your DNA. Like I said, I've been this person my whole life to figure things out, be an entrepreneur. This is just who I am. I'm disciplined. You know what I mean? I'll sacrifice like that in the mud business, and then creative things of putting it together. That's what's going to separate. That's really what it's about. So, and if you're not that person, if you don't have that creativity, if you don't have that ambition, if you don't have the brains, for lack of a better word, get with people who do that. If
Yes.
all you want to do is coach and be passionate and all of that, there's nothing wrong with that at all. You don't want to run a business. You don't want to get on the phone with people. You don't want to have hard conversations. You don't want to have to hire and fire. You don't want to have to learn technology to run your business. You got to find people who do, because if you're trying to make a living doing this, this is no joke.
hmm And the
Yeah.
social media component is almost mandatory at this point, right? Now, one of the
Yeah.
things my friend said yesterday was that he feels like people are in this game more for the likes than they are for the training. What would you say to that? How do we balance the fact that we got
Hmm.
to put what we do on display, but it's at the same time it's got to be pure?
Yeah. Look, to me, that's like, of course, you know what I mean? Of course, just like people have jobs that they're not passionate about. You know, people earn salaries that they're not worthy of. Um, that's just life. You know, it's always going to be muddied. Every industry in the world is going to be muddied up with clock punchers or people who are just looking for the check. So, people who are in that boat, if you know you're in that boat, just for your own life's sake, I would tell you to use it. Use you if you have an opportunity to make money or whatever you need to do off of sports or whatever. Use it to go do what you really want to do. Um, that's the way that I look at all things. I think everybody needs to find their passion. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have one, and I feel bad for those people. But the people who have one, you need to go do that thing. So, um, don't get me wrong. I don't think those people are helping the ecosystem, but I'd be a fool if I thought that we could just weed them out. That's never leaving,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
So that's just part of it. That's part of it's your job as a parent and a player to find that stuff, you know, and navigate through it and stay away from it.
Yeah, if you're listening, that's why we're here. We want to help. So if
Yeah.
you are a young trainer, you are a young coach, and you want to get into this, but you don't quite have the business acumen, you don't quite have all the things in place. We're trying to put those things together by bringing you good people like Rel, bringing you other people from the industry, and putting it all in one place. That's what AGB coaching is all about. So just a
Yeah.
quick self plug there, but but I appreciate what you're doing. So I promised myself this. I said if I get him on, I'm going to challenge him on one thing because there was one video you did
Absolutely. Nah,
a
yeah, I
while
want to
ago
hear it.
where I said, "Man, I don't know." Okay, so you said that you went to some tournaments. You had just got back
Yeah.
from some of the exposure events,
Yeah.
and you said that look, all this stuff is important. You know that all the intangibles that we people talk about is important. He's like, but you said at the end of the day, the bucket still got all the looks, and
Yeah.
you still got to get a bucket. Now, I'm not saying that what you said is not true.
Hmm.
What I'm saying is it bothered me because as a AD and as a coach, I
Yeah.
know kids are already coming to us with that mentality that
Hmm.
the bucket is the all-knowing, powerful thing, and if
Yeah.
I'm a bucket, then you can't tell me anything.
Sure.
So just I want to just challenge you on that and see
Yeah.
what's your full thought on that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, the first thing is the funny thing about social media is I post 30-second to 60-second clips that could be talked about for 2 hours. So,
Hmm.
but that's the nature of the beast. You can't, you know, I'm not in a space where we're talking for an hour, 2 hours, and you know, we're not. That's just not the way that we run the page. But so what happens is, to our benefit, it causes a lot of controversy because there's not a lot of context behind what's being said. That said, I'm always speaking about something very specific. I was speaking very specifically about that situation that I'm not gonna lie, sugarcoat bullshit anything. You know, I talk about what I see here in our academy and my experiences. And at this tournament, it's not just this tournament. We could go up and down the line, but the kids who get the opportunities in high school are the kids that usually are being the most aggressive, shooting the most shots, and putting up the most points. That does not mean that same kid is only focused on that or doesn't understand. All right, put it this way: the kid, uh, who's the kid going to Kentucky this year? The Rob Dillingham kid, I believe is his name. I don't know if you know who that kid is.
Hmm.
Okay,
Not
so
familiar.
he played with Overtime Elite over this past year, and he's going to Kentucky. He is the epitome of this. He shoots horrible shots, dribbles the hell out of the ball, super talented, right? And but to be honest, like I watched some of his games this year, and like I'm like, man, I can't even watch this. But that said, this kid is extremely talented, and he's going to Kentucky. So if he does not, actually, Calipari just said this about him a couple weeks ago. It was in an interview. They asked about Rob and like about what's going. I forget what the question was, but his exact Calipari's response was he has the ultimate green light if he's shooting good shots. And if he's playing the way he's supposed to play, that means he better be buying into the defensive principles. He better be playing his butt off. He better be talking, boxing out, closing out, running back on. All of these things have to click. But understand that the kid who is out there playing against Rob in high school and had 4 points and didn't show any ability to shoot a Steph Curry shot from 30 feet, he's not getting the opportunity from John.
Mm-hmm. We
I'm
lost
not
Rel
sure
there.
what.
Coach, I lost your video feed there.
It's
There
sorry,
we go.
somebody was calling me and it knocked
No
it off.
biggie.
But
No biggie.
the kids who are not the kids who are not showing that level of talent, they're not getting the looks from the Kentuckys. That's the truth. So as much as as much as we need to understand how to play in the big picture of how you win games, and that's what we harp on so much, because again, the 99% of people you run into, they don't even have the talent, God gifted ability to do that. But the ones who do, they are the ones also out there showing the most. And they're shooting bad shots in those games, and they're taking too many dribbles, and they're playing 1-on-5. But there's a certain amount of it's the other pieces that is really important for people to understand. Even if you're an average kid at home, it takes a certain amount of confidence to even shoot 20 shots a game. It takes a certain
Say
amount
it,
of confidence to even come down the floor and take a bad shot before making a pass. There's a certain amount of dog in you when you do that. And now when you put all those kids on the same roster at Kentucky or wherever, now it's all going to even out. Okay.
Yeah.
Those kids are they're in an environment where they can't do what they did in high school. But what they did in high school was what got them in that opportunity in the first place. So, for as much as people want to make excuses and dog kids, when they show up, or you have a parent watching the game, oh, this kid doesn't shoot and he yada yada, and he's really not that good. He just listen. If that was the case, your kid would be the one getting the opportunity and not him.
There are two things that I believe are the best indicator of whether you're recruiting a winner or not. And that is, what do they do after they miss? And what do they do after their teammate misses? If you will
Yeah,
just simply watch those two things, you will find winners all around the country, because the ones who when they miss, their head doesn't go down, they get back on defense, they're able to self-motivate themselves to keep playing and shoot again when they're open. That's a winner. And
yeah,
then the one who notices that their teammate may not be as strong mentally as they are. So when they miss, they're feeling
yeah,
down and they lift them up. If you find someone that can do those two things on a consistent level,
yeah,
then obviously the skills is still there, but that's a winner.
yeah. No, for sure. And again, most of these kids, and the caveat of what I was saying in that video, most of these kids are not winners right now. That's why they're playing this way. They don't understand. When a kid is 16, 17, he doesn't know what it takes to win. All right. They're playing high school ball, especially if you're not playing on some high profile team in the top team in the country. You got kids playing football on your team, baseball. You guys don't know the first thing about winning. You don't know what this is really about. Okay. Um, so everybody's on that playing field, and so that's why you're not going to see them understanding how to really play the game, because they're just too young, and their coach, usually probably doesn't know anything about winning either a lot of the times. And if you're at a regular public high school, your coach got a part-time job. He's a part-time coach, and then he's an accountant somewhere else. He doesn't know the first thing about winning high-level basketball games. He's never done it himself. So, and it's no knock on these people. People get all offended when I say these things. It's not a knock. I'm being realistic about the situation, and you need to be realistic about the situation to figure out what you're going to do to make sure you don't get caught in the shuffle or allow this stuff to hold you back. But the kids that are doing this, they're getting all these offers and everything. These coaches know that these kids aren't polished players. They know that they're not ready to throw them in right now and win a Final Four game, but it doesn't work that way. But there's a threshold of talent, size, athleticism, and natural ability and confidence that you have to even be put in the situation to learn how to play amongst those kids. And that is simply all showing when I say things like that. So that's there's a distinction there.
I respect it. I respect it. And I think if the kid listens to you, goes and builds his game and his confidence to that level, and then also has the ability to hit campus with a mentality of progression and getting better and humility, then
Yeah,
that coach can speak into their lives, teach them how to take that talent and maximize it.
100%, 100%. And if they continue to play how they played on the EYBL, it's not gonna go well for them.
Right. Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, so only two more questions, man. I appreciate your time, man. Let's get this thing
Yeah.
under an hour. First, let's tell our people where they can find you. I know you're locally in
Mhm.
PA, but what can we do from Chicago? How can we support you virtually? Like, we want to show you some love. What can we do?
Yeah. Sure. No, I appreciate that. I mean, obviously we're here in Pittsburgh, which is our hub. We do have um, in the summer we have summer camps, which basically means you could be here for a week and be a part of this thing. We're because of our social media presence, we're probably going to have that happen throughout the year now if people want to. I know people are usually tied up in seasons with in the winter and things like that. But if people want to come down here for a week, we're going to start opening that up because we have a bigger reach. So but the other piece is just being able to help kids virtually, and what we do virtually is film breakdown because that is the most useful, especially for high school players. So, we'll show you skill drills and stuff. There's just you don't need us for that. You can find that all over the place. But to have our basketball expertise to look at your film and pinpoint exactly why you're struggling, where you're struggling, or whatever it might be, we're going to be able to look at that film with our basketball acumen and help you out. That's probably the best way we can add value to people. And we have like how that works and a breakdown of it on the website at relacademy.com. But that's one way.
I love it. So we'll make sure when we put this episode out, we'll link to that. And then man, I love what you're doing so much. I would, if you're open to it, I would add a link to our website that's standing. So anyone that
Sure.
comes and sees us, we'll say, if you want film breakdown, go here. So we could talk about that off air,
Yeah, I
see if we can get
appreciate
that
that.
going for you.
Sure.
But all right,
Absolutely.
last question, man. We like to ask. So I'm on a mission. In addition to trying to help everyone get better, I think the only way to get better is to be self-aware of what your insecurities are. So I'm on a mission to
Yeah.
normalize insecurity. So the last question I ask every guest is, what are you insecure about? And what is your AGB? What's the next thing that you're trying to push for?
It's a good question, man. I have to think about that. I'm usually a pretty confident person. I don't have many insecurities. But
That's
as
right.
far as I'll say, as far as basketball or moving forward, I always look at competition. I always look at this person might be better than me. These people running this operation might have something better. I always have that hole to fill. So keeping that hunger, I take that insecurity and make it a good thing. I
Yeah,
take that
right.
insecurity and don't run away from it. I make sure that I try to address it. I look at it as a weakness that needs to be filled. I'm a person who thrives off knowing what I'm bad at. A lot of people don't like to hear that stuff. It usually knocks them down. I get a fire in me if you tell me I'm not good at something or if I'm missing this or if I enjoy that. Um, so I think being okay with not being good at something or having a missing like that is probably something that people should come to grips with. I'll give you an example, right? And I'm not trying to take it somewhere else. um if you have kids and you have a kid is chubby, I'm letting that kid know he's chubby. I'm not
Mhm,
going to have to degrade him. I don't have to make
mhm,
it seem like it's a bad thing he's chubby. I want him to know that he's chubby, so when the kids start calling him in school, I know I'm working on it. I know,
mhm,
this is not
mhm.
new to me.
Right.
This is not new. um and I believe in that philosophy because you could cry when someone calls you chubby, or your parents could try to make you believe that you're not chubby when you're 10 years old. But I believe that that makes that insecurity void, that hole, get bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
I try to look at everything like I don't I take it I let it roll off my back, and but I don't forget it though. It's not gonna knock me down. But trust me, I take note when I see these people doing that, and I'm like, man, you know what? We're slacking there. Like they're better right now. I'm not gonna, it's not gonna crumble me, and I'm gonna stay up about it. But I'm gonna take note. And so I think being able to look at your insecurities as just a place to get better, right? A
That's right.
place to
That's right.
improve on, because you're usually insecure for a good reason. If somebody's insecure about their weight, they're probably overweight. If
Mhm,
somebody's insecure about how they're running their operation, they're probably slacking a little bit. They're probably not
mhm.
going as hard as they could be. So you just address it as what it is, and understand that you're going to have another one too. They're going to keep popping up. So that's just all part of the process of making you the best version of you.
That's right. So what about pros, man? You want to get into that? You want to write a book? You want to get on stages, man? What do you want to do next with Rel? Are you good staying right there just doing the academy?
Yeah, I don't. I had an offer to be a player development coach at a Power Five school a couple months ago, and it wasn't something that was going to work out for me. It just didn't make sense. Um, but I never thought about anything further until I got that offer to do that, and so it got me thinking a little bit. Um, but I have it's no burning desire. You know what I mean? I love what I do. I would like to take it around the country, which is something we're in the process of doing. Um, just because I know there's a lot of great people out there who can pull this thing off as well. You know what I mean? And we can help pull it off. The system that we have, I believe, is just good for youth development. So I'm probably more passionate about that than I am working with a pro. We have a kid in our academy. He's been there for 4 years. He's probably going to go to the NBA. I'm no more excited to work with him than to do work with all these other kids every day and just deal with parents about issues. I enjoy this stuff. You know what I mean? I genuinely enjoy the process of building a young adult. So, we'll see. I'd be open to everything, but it's not something that I pursue on a day-to-day basis.
Well, I want to say this to you, man. If you ever come to Chicago, you got a university waiting for you, man. If you need a gym, you just say the word. I got you.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate your time, man, and thanks for coming on the show. And I'm a big fan. I'm gonna be supporting you from afar.